Welcome back, folks. In this episode, I'm going to be talking about the fear of visibility, what it is, my personal experience of it, and ways to overcome it, and anything else that may come to mind. I may just add it in at the end. So what I'm actually doing right now is I'm actually working on this particular fear. For a while, most of my life, I actually had it, but I didn't even know I had it. And it's only over the past year or two that I've become conscious of it and making active, taking action to overcome it. And a lot of the times, I think, myself included, we convince ourselves that we're not doing something, even if it's just making like a post on a forum, because, oh no, yeah, I don't like this forum, or, it's not important or something like that. But the deeper underlying root of it is just we're almost talking ourselves out of it, because of that underlying fear, which in this case is the fear of visibility. So, what is the fear of visibility? The fear of visibility, at least this is my definition of it from own research and my own experience, is the fear of being seen, and that doesn't just mean in person, but it means online as well. And this comes from, I guess it's a place of not feeling safe, feeling judged. So you might make yourself small in a situation, or not say your truth, or maybe you don't even send a message in a group chat, because this gets the eyes on you, which means there's potential for judgment, and going even deeper than that, there is the chance of harm or death for this. Now, this is obviously, perhaps it can stem from something like, you had an experience in your childhood where you did something and a group of people laughed at you, or your parents told you off, or something like that. And even though it may not have come from, sometimes it may have come from like an actual place of trauma, and I'm not denying that at all. And a lot of us, we're not even sure if that's the case because we're unaware of it. But something like being laughed at can be seen as death or harm when you're a small child, because you're not aware of this. You're not properly conscious of what's going on. So even something as small as that can be seen as death, and it can just impact your future older years as you're going along. So like I said, something as simple as putting a message in a group chat, you may not do it. Simple putting a post on a forum, you may not do it. And this applies to physical, real life reality as well, not just online reality. So you may have a conversation with a friend or something, or just a stranger. You may not say your real truth, because you think, if I say my truth, what I actually think about this situation, they may judge me. If I tell them, I don't know, I like doing yoga at the weekends, they may judge me, and a group of people then may be all focused on me, which then in your mind, which is not the case 99.9% of the time, you're like, oh, it could lead to me being harmed, or I guess worst case scenario, killed. And this comes back from our reptilian brain, which back in the day was there to, help us survive when we were like cavemen and that. If you went against the tribe or something like that back in those days, there's the chance of being killed, which is not the case now in, like I say, 99.9% of cases. But the brain still is working like that to basically, it's a survival technique, survival mode. And this can be quite, I'm not sure what the word is, but it can be very limiting in daily life, because you're almost kept in this box. It's almost like a mental prison cell, because you think anything you do could lead to the potential of someone judging you or someone harming you. So if you want to start a business, for example, you think, well, I don't want to have an online presence or meet loads of people and so on, because what if I'm more visible now, and then this opens up an opportunity for judgment. So if I put myself out there, this is my worst case fear, and oh my god, no, I better not do that. So you, in a situation like that, you could try and worm yourself out of it. You might be like, oh, I'm not going to post videos or create a website because it's not the right thing for me, when in reality the deeper cause of it is that fear of visibility, which once again, the even deeper cause of that is the fear of harm. You're not feeling safe. And it's not just that, it will apply in many different ways, but ultimately because of that root cause, you're stuck. and it feels like there's no way out. And really, the only way to overcome something like this is to gradually, first of all, become aware of what's going on and try and figure out where it came from. Because a lot of the times, our thoughts, our beliefs, the patterns that we're living out are not our own patterns. And they've been projected onto us by, it can be a variety of things. It can come from, obviously, like I mentioned the first, it could be from trauma. It could be from society, your group of friends who you're hanging out with, your environment. But a lot of the time it's from our caregivers, our family, or, your mum, your dad, your granddad, those sort of people who, when they were growing up, have gone through something and they see reality through that lens. Now, I'll give you an example. My background, my family have, particularly the older generations, grandma, granddad, and their people they were around. They grew up in war times, and even to my mum's generation, dad's generation, they were little kids in that time as well. But they grew up in a wartime in their country, where there was like betrayals among different people. There was a lot of paranoia, a lot of scarcity, a lot of fear. So their view of reality has always been fear-based. The world is not safe, because that was what was going on in, I guess, majority of their life, you could say. And because it was unhealed, when they had kids, which would have been my mum and dad's generation, they would have been projecting that onto them. And even though the kids would have had no idea of there was a war, I don't know, 20, 30 years ago, this happened, that happened, they would have had no idea whatsoever. But because they've been projected that view of reality onto, they've had that projected onto, they grow up believing that's the way the world is. Like, kids are born as a blank slate, so you can they absorb anything. But if your family, the people that are bringing you up, are telling you, the world's not safe, this is scary, and that's the energetic imprint you're giving to them, they believe that is true, and it molds, crystallizes, and forms those patterns in those people, to which they just act out the patterns of the previous generation. So a lot of the times it can come from that as well, whether you realise it or not, because it's so deeply ingrained in you that you're just playing out the patterns of the previous generation. So it's good to analyse where it came from. And funny enough, there's something I've been doing over the past week. It's from a lady named Teal Swan, who's, for me, she's been very helpful in my shadow work, my healing my old past traumas, past just creating awareness in myself and healing those wounds, so to speak. And there's some in the media, there's some controversy about her, but like I say, try it out for yourself. But for me, it's been extremely beneficial doing some of her, some of her work and some of her courses and stuff like that. But it's an ancestral healing week-long workshop kind of thing I was doing online, and I was partially aware of it before, but even more aware of it now, having known that my family went through, the past generations went through like wars, went through betrayals, went through stuff like that. Now I'm aware, this is where that fear of visibility, that not feeling safe has come from. They didn't feel safe, and I would have picked up on that as a child, not knowing it. And because you don't know it as a child, when you're a 2-year-old, you don't know that this is not reality, this is just a projection. You think that's what reality is, so then you reinforce it day in, day out. And then your brain looks out for that in daily life. And then it becomes even more of reality. And like I said, everything reinforces it. Something, you lose a coin from your pocket. You think, there you go, see, the world's not safe. That's proof. Even though you could have just misplaced it somewhere. Sometimes it just happens. So we need to, become aware of it and where it came from. But this takes a lot of work as well. It's not just something that happens overnight. But once you know where it came from, you can look to clear that wound out and stitch it up, so to speak. And another thing as well is there's something called gradual exposure therapy. And once you become aware of the root cause of that issue, you can look to gradually expose yourself to it. because the only way to overcome something is to face it and face it full on. And this is not something at the start of the journey, because if something is so painful and so scary, you're not going to want to face it. So it's first, like I say, you need to do a bit of healing around it, cleanse. Imagine if it is an actual wound, you wouldn't just stitch up a wound that's infected. You'd first get rid of the infection, wouldn't you? You'd put some antibacterial on it, do whatever you need, clear out that wound, get the bacteria out. So first you do that through, and that's where the analysis comes in, the self-awareness, seeing where it came from. And then gradual exposure therapy is you take small, tiny steps to exposing yourself to that. So if you have a fear of visibility in this case, you would take, and it's best to do this small steps at a time, very small, so then you don't even notice the exposure increasing to it, because this will keep a bit of a foundation to it, rather than going from 0 to 100, which is not sustainable. So an example could look like this. If you have a fear of visibility, maybe you start just posting on certain forums, maybe anonymously. So that's still making yourself visible. So maybe for a few weeks you do that. You post yourself on forums, you just post your comments to get out there, but no one knows it's you. So this would be step one. Actually, to tell a lie, step one would be visualizing yourself, which you do throughout the whole stage anyway, but the initial one would be visualize yourself. Imagine in your mind what being visible would be like, and imagine overcoming that fear. Just feel the full emotion, that fear that comes up, and see yourself overcoming that fear, and realizing it's not as bad in real life as what it is in the mind. You could also try a different form of visualization, which is the worst case scenario happening, because you want to feel that feeling as well, and also realize that it's the feeling that's the problem you get in your body, the emotion, and not the thing itself. But that's a bit more intense. It's good to start with a positive visualization first. So once that's done, the visualization, you can look to, as I say, go to gradually increase in the in this case exposure to it. First step could be something, it doesn't have to be, but you can figure it out for yourself, and obviously Google the gradual exposure therapy and get more information on it. But just as an example, like I say, it could be then to post on forums anonymously. Once you've done that for a few weeks and I guess that emotion's been neutralized, it doesn't impact you anymore as much, you could then post on forums as your actual self. Maybe you've got a Instagram account. You could post on there with your first name, Bob, whatever your name is. And then maybe you post on there with your full surname, Bob Proctor. Don't know why that name came into my head. Maybe I need to actually watch some of these videos again, which I recommend to. And then maybe after a while you do that, you could do something like post your own informational post on like Instagram or something. So you might write out something saying your own truth. So this is still in the form of writing. No one sees your face. You're not speaking, doing nothing like that. You might post your own, just your own bit of information, bit of advice, whatever it may be. Then maybe you go from there. You do audio clips. No one sees your face; they just see your voice, which is actually what I'm doing now, and this is the whole point of this audio clip and the videos I've done. Well, the audio clips done in the past on this channel or anywhere else. After a while, which is the aim for me as well, is maybe do some videos where people don't know your name or something or who you are, but you just post a little maybe 30-second clip, minute-long clip, just giving a bit of information, trying to help people, whatever. And then maybe you do a longer one, and then you actually say who you are. But that's just an example. This is just a quick example, so you've got something to work with on there, just to expose yourself until you get to that end point. So you need to figure out what is the end point. The end point maybe is to create an hour-long seminar so people see me directly, they know who I am, and I'll be totally fine with that. So it could be something like that. And that's all for this one. So really, the goal is to find the deeper root of that particular fear, see where it came from, do a little bit of healing, cleanse out the wound, and then gradually expose yourself to that thing so it no longer has hold over your life. Hope this helps, and have a good week.